hopefully we'll get Phil on here shortly. We're going to be talking about a number of things. First of all, there's so much to discuss, as we always say, and there's so little time to do it. I mean, the hour that we try to do this in goes by so quickly. We're going to cover some of the big issues of the week. We're going to follow up on some of the issues we've covered last week from all angles, all political perspectives, which you, I, and Patriot Phil bring different perspectives on different issues. We're not here to sugarcoat anything. As we say, it's raw and unfiltered. We're here to try to unite America and not divide it. And I think that's our most common goal for sure. So tonight, Bob, we're going to start off with a quote that I read on Twitter, and I got quite a laugh out of this. Okay, so this was retweeted by Ben Shapiro, and I believe you know who Ben Shapiro is, right?
Yes.
Okay. Tell our audience who Ben Shapiro is in a couple of words.
Well, a couple of words would be he's a very well-known conservative, and he's pretty much out there nationally a lot.
Yeah, he is. He's on YouTube. He's on TV.
Everywhere.
He's on Fox a lot. He's on probably Newsmax. I think they have their own. Don't they have their own TV channel or own YouTube TV news channel? It's
probably. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a follower of his. I mean, I see him when he shows up on things that I watch.
Yeah, he's quite an active speaker too on the road. Probably getting paid thousands of dollars for his speeches, which are very controversial at times. But he retweeted, what they call retweeted someone else's tweet. And I thought it was kind of funny. So the guy's original tweet, Sneeko is the guy who put out the original tweet. And here's what Sneeko had to say. Being broke and fat should piss you off. Wokeness provides the cure for this problem. They say it's not your fault. It's racism. It's depression. It's fatphobia. They gave you a reason to be content as failures. Wake up. So that's the tweet. And I thought that was pretty funny. It's actually getting a lot of attention on Twitter. Some people liked it. Some people didn't like it, but I think it's a good way to kick off our program. Let's go right into our first topic, Bob, and that is CPAC. Will you tell people what CPAC stands for and what it has been over the last several years?
Well, Conservative Political Action
Committee.
Committee. Okay, sorry.
Conference. No, I'm sorry. Conference.
Well, everybody calls it CPAC. So when you the acronym is used so often that it's
right.
Okay, so it's a congregation of conservatives, right-wing conservatives. Doesn't necessarily represent all of the Republicans, or doesn't at all represent all Republicans, and so it's very important because so many Republicans are right-wing and conservative, and look to the leaders of CPAC to kind of just see what's happening, but it does not really mean all Republicans. And so if they favor a particular candidate, it does not mean that that candidate is really as popular as it may seem coming out of that conference.
Okay, so the first question I'd like you to address to our audience, as I put up something here about CPAC, all right, is I'd like you to comment on the media's reporting. And I think the media's reporting, there were multiple sites that said CPAC has lost its steam for the GOP. And do you agree with that? And if you don't agree with that, tell us why.
Well, what I call the Democrat media, of course, will say that because they want to downplay it. I think that, and I can't really read your thing that you put up on the screen because it's I have a small screen here. But I think the way I look at it, I did think about these comments because I heard them, and the Republicans are having trouble now because they're not sure who to support. And so I think that CPAC reflects that to the extent that we have several people that are running. Some people may run, may not run. We don't know, for the presidency on the Republican side. So I guess the answer is that on the one side, the Democrat press is going to put them down, whatever they say. On the other side, they do speak for the right wing of the Republican Party, which is not bad. I'm in that part, but and any of these things will have the rah-rah convention type people attending, as opposed to the average guy who drives a truck or whatever, the average person that's a Republican. They're not into the politics as much as those people. But that's going to be the same on the liberal side as well, Democrat side.
Well, I think the criticism this year, especially this year, is that, and some of the steam has been taken out of it. I think some of the reporting was accurate. Okay, whether it's Democratic media or left-wing media, whatever we want to call it, I think some of it was accurate. All right, there seems to have been a smaller crowd there, and a smaller crowd when former President Donald Trump spoke to CPAC. He was the main event for CPAC this year. There were other candidates who and leaders in GOP who did not show up. Now, the other reason they say is the leader of CPAC, what's the guy's name? Michael Schlepp or something like that? Schlapp?
Bill. I think it's Bill.
He's been accused, allegedly of some, let's say, moral crimes. And they thought that all of this together made the steam come out of CPAC. And there is an alternative called Turning Point USA in the conservative atmosphere here. And they thought CPAC's time might have passed. I don't know if you agree with that or even give a damn about that, but it seems like even Donald Trump could not pack that conference this year.
Well, I don't really have a opinion that strong either way, but the economy is such that maybe a lot of people didn't want to spend the money to attend. I mean, that would have in other years. It's been very costly. I think is the estimate that families are down $7,000 in spending because of the Biden inflation we have. So that might impact it. I don't know, but there's a lot of, I think, discomfort on whether Trump should run or not. I mean, I'm just giving my ideas. I don't know what their explanation is for it, but right now, because unfortunately Trump keeps saying things that he shouldn't, he's turning off a lot of his supporters. But then DeSantis has his issues as well. So I don't know whether people feel as strongly as they would have, in the prior election for Trump. Maybe there would have been a bigger turnout, but Trump lost, and he's throwing out all kinds of accusations against people. These typical things that are ego related. So I think the enthusiasm could be that. The lack of enthusiasm.
Yeah, DeSantis didn't show up at all. And he decided, he has not obviously gotten into the race yet, but that doesn't mean he couldn't have shown up for CPAC. I think his handlers told him this is a Trump event. They're going to do their straw poll at the end. Trump's going to win whether you're there or not overwhelmingly. So why show up to this mess, and get dragged through the mud, especially when you have Trump now. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. You're in the conservative end of things, correct?
Yes.
You have voted for Trump before, correct?
Yes.
I have voted for Trump. Okay. We fully admit that. We're not here to BS anybody, but Trump now has already started these attacks about naming these guys with the silly names he tags on them and stuff. To me, that's a bunch of shit. And I'll tell you right now that if it's Trump versus Biden, I don't know who the hell I'll be able to vote for. I know I can't vote for Biden, but Trump, I don't get why Trump, besides his ego and his showmanship, can't polish up his act enough to lead with policies only and has to play these elementary school games with these other candidates. It makes him look stupid, and it doesn't make him any friends at all.
I agree. And when I talk to other people who are similarly situated with me politically, a lot of them say the standard thing. His time has come and gone, and we need somebody else because he can clean himself up. He refuses to. He refuses to. He when he's when he announced for this select, I listened to his speech when he announced. And I said, "Oh, he's acting presidential this time," and then he went right down in the toilet again. And he just can't get past his ego. He is his own worst enemy. He's the one that runs off votes. And I'm saying this as I'm sort of a supporter. I feel that these CPAC issues and the lack of interest is in me as well because of what he did. And what concerned me too, he turned off, especially in the last election, I think he lost, people don't realize this, but gun votes, because as a Republican, he went out of his way to ban the bump stocks, which I know nobody really cares about. Even people who don't care about it only because Trump said, I'll go for gun control. When the Democrats said that item should not be controlled, he required it to be controlled by edict. So what I'm saying is his political wisdom is not very good to do that. You don't turn off your prime supporters, which are gun owners, like that. You just don't do it. So, and he does that on other issues. That was just one issue, but he does that on things, and it just drives people crazy. But DeSantis has his own issues. He's kind of slimy in my view, and we can discuss that later or whenever.
Well, I don't think we're going to discuss it tonight. But the question is, the question is, and it's probably not a question for tonight, but I have a hard time believing that even if Biden decides to run, which I think he's probably going to do that, is because everybody wants to be a two-term president. Okay, that's part of the deal. I don't think Trump could beat him because the vote changers are the swing voters, the independents, the more moderate conservatives, the moderate liberals. I don't think Trump, because of his mannerisms and how he conducts his business, can win any part of that vote.
I think I am worried about the same thing. Possibly he could win if DeSantis was his vice president. But the problem with that is DeSantis is so strong-willed, he'll overshine Trump, so Trump could never have him as the vice president, I don't think.
Well, I don't think Trump has to worry about that because DeSantis would never, and you can write this shit down, he would never be his vice president, ever.
I don't know, because
do you agree with me or disagree with me on that?
Neither. I don't know, but things in politics don't really surprise me when they happen. So
I would be shocked. I would be literally shocked to see DeSantis as who I think is a pretty well polished, smart, ambitious Republican, hook his boat to Trump, who has a real good possibility of losing, because Trump's voter base, kind of like Fox News's voter base, is like 65, 70-year-old, mainly white people, in my opinion. And that is not going to get the job done.
Well, when I see his rallies, which I've seen many of them on TV, there's a wide variety of ages and many, many young people. So I think that's incorrect. Maybe if there's voting polls, I don't know. But these people that attend his rallies are quite, 30s, 20s, I mean, all kinds. And you can see them in the crowd. So I don't worry about that. The way that could go down is this, is that if he somehow is the top choice of the Republicans somehow, and DeSantis realizes he ain't going to be president this time, it would behoove him to jump on, because Trump will be only one more term, and he could then set himself up for president. And it would be but he'd have to have some kind of agreement from Trump that he's not going to be just some errand boy or somebody who stands in the corner and does nothing. That he will have to be in charge of immigration or something to give him some creds. If that could work, possibly.
That's interesting. Well, time will tell. It's going to be a roller coaster for the next 2 years in political circles. And it's going to be fascinating to watch how all of this unfolds. And then the last statement I have on this is, if Trump is indicted, which I don't think will happen, even on some of these financial things, he's not going to get indicted for anything about January the 6th. If he gets indicted on financial stuff, he's still eligible to run, as far as I know, correct?
Well, I don't know the laws, the specific laws involved there, but as far as I have heard or understand, yes, he could. And I don't think it's going to turn that many people off, because after the Russia collusion hoax and the phone call hoax and all the other stuff that they threw against him, people are just going to figure and also the indictment would be most likely in Washington. There might New York, I think it might be working on some stuff, but that people aren't going to give it any credit. I mean, credibility. And I would say probably independents, not just the Republicans, independents would probably say enough with the attacks. Well,
let's move on to our next topic, Bob. And it's something we have touched with in a couple of our shows here. And that is the war in Ukraine. It rages on. Okay. Cities are being totally leveled and destroyed by both sides in the fighting. Jets to Ukraine. Okay, this is the topic. It was in the national news this week that I think it's Poland is already, as a NATO force, they're ready to supply jets over to the Ukrainians. But the U.S. has put the brakes on that. Why do you think that is?
Well, for answer is I don't know for sure. But this whole war has been an outrage, and obviously we're not going to go into the whole details of that. But when you have Biden inviting the Russians in by saying, well, it's a little incursion, won't be that big a deal, basically, not exactly the words he used, but basically. So then they come in and, well, we're not going to give you this. We're not going to let you have the MiGs through Germany. And, we're not going to have all these. Then, okay, we're going to give you some more things. They're dragging this thing out. Now, my view is maybe different than yours, but I try to get the big picture here that China is wants all this stuff that happened, because anything that drags down Russia and the United States makes them more powerful. And also, by no accident, China came into Afghanistan when Biden screwed us there. They took over of course, they had full access to all the weapons, which they could probably reverse engineer if they need to. But they also have they're going for the oil there, but also the minerals and things. So I believe, from a lot of information, that Biden is taking bribes from China. And I think lots of people see that. It's pretty clear through his son, which is how they bribe people. And he's doing China's bidding. So I know people think it's a conspiracy theory. As I like to say, conspiracy facts are not conspiracy theory. And he took money. He took money from China, and they own him. And that's the way it is. So I try to see.
Now, Bob, when you say, Bob, I got to stop you.
No, you can.
When you say the Biden family has taken money from China, where are you getting your information from?
All right, that comes from the examination of his laptop, all the business dealings he's had with China. This is his son.
But wait a minute, Bob, I'm gonna push back here a little bit. Okay, you're saying it comes from his laptop? I don't even know where this damn laptop is. I don't know if there's an investigation underway on the laptop. Who's conducting the investigation on the laptop?
There is one. Yes.
You don't even know where it is, right?
The laptop? Okay. Well,
I guess I'm trying to separate out what are the real true facts and what are assumptions you're making here.
All right. The laptop, I believe the original laptop was given to the FBI, but fortunately, the guy that gave it to him made copies and he spread those around. Gave it to Giuliani and other places. I don't know all the people that have it, but a hell of a lot of people have seen it. And they're releasing information over time. I actually saw early on pictures that were pornographic pictures from them. You can clearly him that was released on the internet. I was surprised. I mean, I couldn't believe that somebody sent me the link, and I said, "This is unbelievable." But they were sharing that information, and it's him. I mean, there's no doubt it's him with a prostitute.
Oh, I've seen those pictures that have come out. I've seen those pictures.
But beyond that, I don't care.
But the allegation that you're saying the Biden crime family is getting money from China, and Ukraine, basically they're leveraging him in his decision making. I don't understand how you can make that connection. And I'm not here to defend Biden or his family. And I don't.
You'll never see take.
How do you, I just want, I deal with facts a
Okay.
lot. In
All
my
right.
life,
So
I've always had to deal with facts.
okay. So did I. So when you deal with facts, and if you were investigating,
Verifiable
when
facts.
you investigate somebody and you know somebody gave their son, who's a drug addict, a lot of money, do you think they did that for their health or for some benefit? Well, of course,
Okay. I know
the
that
only
deal
person that
you're
Hunter
talking
knows is his
about. Yeah.
dad. But
Yeah.
it's the only person who knows is his dad. And then he talks about 10% of the big guy on some of these deals. Ukraine was sloppy, and that's clearly. I mean, there's so much to me. That's evidence. You know, circumstantial evidence is still evidence, and it's strong. So when I look at this guy, what he's doing, you tell me what has he done tough that actually means something, not some meaningless sanctions to China. That what has he done? Nothing.
I really don't know of
Nothing.
anything at this point.
Nothing. And
Now
so
that doesn't mean he hasn't. I just don't know about it.
no, there's nothing. He's not doing anything, and he won't. And and then you create. Okay, so I forgot the original question. Sorry.
Yeah.
About,
So have I. No, it's about jets to Ukraine.
okay, so just Ukraine. All
Yeah.
right.
Let's
So
get back on.
the official thing.
Let's get back on. This is a brutal war with no end in sight.
That's exactly right.
Okay. The Russians are probably going to play a long-term game to try to wear them down and run. And Ukraine's probably going to run out of soldiers. Okay. And once
Yeah.
you run out of soldiers, the war is over. Okay. The war is over. The question is the United States, which we've said this before, I don't want to go over it a lot, is we're running a proxy war against the Russians through Ukraine because we're providing all types of armaments, we're all types of logistics. We're holding back these jets. Okay, we're holding back the fighter jets. The last time we said because we're afraid they're going to fly one of those and drop some bombs on Moscow or St. Petersburg, Russia.
They always come through with the thing. They're going to come through with those jets. You watch. They're going to come through with the jets.
The pressure is huge to come through with the jets. And I think you're right.
We're giving them tanks. They always, like an article I read was talking about how they always say no and then they go ahead and do it. There is no, you're right. There's no end in sight. We're just being worn down. We're depleting our resources. Why is this Biden guy doing this? Why isn't he demanding that there be some solution, some settlement? But no, the guy who we have to back up to in Ukraine. This is the same Ukraine that Obama, who is through his people heavily into the Biden administration, he's the one that overthrew the Russia-friendly government in Ukraine. So he did that, and Russia's pissed. Well, we would be pissed too if Russia did that to our guy. Well, then magically somehow relatives of Pelosi and Mitt Romney and of course Biden are all taking money from Ukraine. This is not a mistake. This is what I'm talking about. You have to look at the smoke because there is fire there.
Bob, I can't say I'm in total agreement with you because I have to see it. I've got to see something more than what I've seen.
Then you got to read the articles. There's many detailed articles about
most of these articles are coming from conservative viewpoints, conservative bias, in my opinion, unless you can show me something on the left that agrees with that point.
So are you telling me the left is saying, or tell me, I guess
I don't see anything on the left saying anything about that, obviously.
That these payments were never true, that there was no payments to Hunter. There was no payments to Nancy Pelosi.
No, I think
that's how you attack it. But they don't say
why the hell? Well, that's the next point, Bob. And I'm not trying to be combative with or confrontational, but what I'm saying is why the hell don't they bring these investigations legitimately forward? You know what it is? When the Democrats have the House, they do investigations on the Republicans. When the Republicans have the House, they do investigations on the Democrats, and we get nowhere. This shit goes on for years with no ending. This thing about the Hunter Biden laptop should have been done years ago. I don't think anybody. Are you saying to me that the FBI, you believe in everything you've read? Because let's tell the people, we don't have any inside information. We get all of our information just like the viewers do. Okay, is this? Are you telling me the FBI has an open investigation on Hunter, or do you know that or not?
They have said that they're, well, he's had an IRS.
Who has said that? Why don't they ask Christopher
No,
Wray
there's a
up
U.S.
on the
attorney.
Hill?
There's U.S. attorney is assigned to his
Yeah.
many investigations for years. But I wanted to answer. You keep talking about investigations. There is a significant difference between a congressional investigation and a criminal
Oh, of
investigation.
course. Of course.
Congressional investigations are never going to end up in an indictment. They can refer things that they wish, but DOJ, which is controlled
Right.
by the
Right.
Democrat Party,
Right. Merrick
through
Garland.
Yep. He's a partisan of extreme. Yep. And then when Trump, he made terrible selections for attorney general, starting with Jeff Sessions, who was a complete wimp and fool. And then the next one, he was not good either. He was pretty much a rhino. So they did not investigate these things, and the FBI held onto that laptop for a very long time. There was a long time before it was released. I believe the guy just went around the FBI and finally released it to other people because the FBI wasn't doing squat.
Well, go back to my original question. Are you aware, is there an open investigation by DOJ on Hunter Biden and his laptop? Yes or no?
I understand that from what I've read, yes, but I can't remember whether it's Delaware or in DC. I cannot remember. But there is
a You know what's sad, Bob? You know what's sad is this stuff gets so muddled, okay? And it drives me crazy because it's so muddled and none of this stuff ever comes to an end that I see. Nothing. We don't, I mean, there must be, isn't there some kind of sunshine laws or transparency to, I guess DOJ doesn't publish a list of who the hell's under investigation.
No, they don't do that. But, and also it's important, and I don't think most of the listeners would know this, having been in the business, I can tell you, I know it, that when they have a case they want to die, they assign it to somebody and they'll go, he's working on it, and it goes on for years and they quietly close it. I saw this myself in Miami years ago when I worked down there. And I remember when they assigned something, it was a critical case. I won't go into the details. And they said, this attorney, assistant U.S. attorney, is going to handle this. And I said to my buddies, I said, this case is going nowhere fast because that guy doesn't do anything. And they waited about a year and they killed that case. And it was important for racial reasons. But it just died. And I knew it was going to. And that's what they do. I pay no attention to these federal investigations. If something's under investigation, they already know it's going to die. And they're just waiting for it to die in many cases. And I'm sorry, that's the truth.
But I think the mechanism by Congress, once they make a referral to DOJ, that they can follow up and at least send a letter. You know how the letters go over and they get no response, is to follow up on it. Doesn't that drive you crazy that these things never come to an end? There's no, it just kind of disappears.
The referrals from Congress are all political. So they say, hey, this guy's a bad guy, do something. And then they'll go, yeah, okay. Well, they may or not. At least it gives Congress the ability to go out and bang on the table and say, we referred this over. Well, did it have essential evidence? Well, nobody asked that question. So because it's very political. So just like the January 6th thing, which we talked about, was a complete scam. And so
well, we're getting there. Don't blow all the gas on that yet.
I'm saying that when it's very political and they're going after somebody for political reasons, and then they refer somebody for prosecution, you basically just close that book. Why look at it? Unless it's the political DOJ, which it is, finds it useful to continue with it.
Well, I have to say this. Part of this program, as far as I'm concerned, is venting. It's a great psychological venting process. And I think that's what a lot of Americans, whether they're on Twitter, they're on YouTube, they're on these different programs, you need a way to vent this stuff because it drives me crazy that this stuff never comes to an end. There's always a big opening and then it just kind of dies out. And I think it's wrong. I think it breeds mistrust in the red America and the blue America. And that's what we have. We have a divided nation and it breeds a lot of mistrust. Okay. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to the next and final major topic we have for tonight. And I think it's a good one. So let me go ahead and introduce this to our viewers. And this is about Tucker Carlson. He was given, I believe now I thought I heard it correct, 40,000 hours? Does that even make sense? It wasn't 14. I think it was more than 14,000 hours we used last time. He was given exclusive access to these security tapes out of the Capitol on January the 6th. We've talked about this a little bit before. He did an analysis of this. And I want to play this for a minute, and we're going to kind of break this down a little bit. And I wish Patriot Phil was here, but maybe Patriot Phil backed out tonight. He didn't want to be here. I don't know that. I'm not accusing him of that, but he's missing something really good. So hang on here. Hang on. And let me cue this up, and we will talk about this.
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pick. The overwhelming weren't peaceful, they were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story.
Okay, Bob, I'm going to stop it right there. All right. You saw and heard what I played, correct?
Yep.
I can't get to where Tucker Carlson is. And I watched this last night. You watched it last night live when he presented it. I think we're going to have different views on this. I cannot get to the point of him concluding that this was an orderly crowd. They were a bunch of sightseers. I will agree with this, and I have for a long time. This was not an armed insurrection. I understand what an armed insurrection is. I know what they are, and this was not that. But this was not a group of sightseers just kind of meandering nicely through the Capitol building. That's my initial thoughts on this. And I think Tucker, by saying the whole thing is a lie, the whole thing was, I think he cherry-picked. I think his crew cherry-picked. And I think that he's creating even more division between the red and the blue in this country. And I believe he is kneeling to the Fox crowd who pays his mortgage. That's my initial thoughts on this. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, obviously we don't agree. So here we go. I had already touched on this stuff, I think it was last week. By the way, his show was 2 nights ago when he had this on there. And also, by the way, as I sent you an article about it, there was a difference between the 14,000 and 40,000. They were kept flip-flopping, they, meaning the press, on what the correct figure was, and became very confusing.
It doesn't matter. It was a massive amount.
Well,
of
I wanted to mention it because for a long time they were talking about 14,000. Now, I want to refer anybody who's really interested in this topic to go to Rebel News. Rebel News, they've been reporting on this for a long time. I've watched their stuff for a long time.
And what is Rebel News? I want to ask you, what is Rebel News?
It's an independent media, and they have investigated the January 6th extensively. They've got a hold of tapes, and they would show people in the crowds that they identified who they felt were undercover operatives. This goes on long ago. anything that Tucker was talking about here doesn't surprise me at all because I've seen it. I haven't
Do
seen.
you agree? Do you agree? You watched his first opening hour of his presentation.
I did.
Do you pretty much, what percentage do you agree with of what he said?
Oh, 100%. I saw
100%. You are agreement with him 100%.
Yes, but let me,
that this whole thing that the January 6th committee, which I do think was biased, I have no doubt about that they were biased. They were a Democratic investigative committee. There's no doubt they had 2 rhinos on there. And I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt it was not an insurrection. I don't have any problem with that. But I do have a problem when he says stuff like they were just kind of friendly, meandering, and doing nice things in there. I think that's kind of bullshit. And I think it hurts. I think it hurts his credibility, and it hurts the credibility of the points you're trying to make.
No, not at all. I'll tell you why. Okay, so I've seen these kind of videos before, so this is not new to me at all. So, I mean, for you, it is because you didn't know. But
no. You don't know what I've seen, what I haven't seen in my career.
Okay. My favorite, no, I mean on this issue.
On this issue.
Yes. So I have I've seen one before. It was great. It was on the YouTube, I guess, and they put in elevator music because it was so boring what the people were doing, and they're just wandering around. They're playing elevator music, da 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 da, because nothing was happening. So the Democrat presentation is these people came in, they were trying to stop the voting. These people weren't stopping anything. They're wandering around, they're taking pictures, and the Democrats never provided any evidence that these guys were lurching in there trying to kidnap people or do. If it's an insurrection, where did that occur? Nothing.
Well,
so
I think, well, let's agree on one point. It was not an armed insurrection. I'm fully on board 100%, and I've said it for months.
Insurrection. You had a riot outside. Where are the riots going on inside that you see? None. So that's the reason I like Tucker, because, and you talk about he's bending down.
But Bob, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's see what we can agree on, and then we'll kind of see what we don't agree on. Is this. When Tucker makes the points and they're cherry picking some of this film they want to show of people meandering around, they're taking a few photos, they're sitting up on the dais there, where the VP would sit, the guy with the bullhorns and Mr. What's his name, QAnon there. Okay, were they lighting the place on fire? Were they spray painting walls? No. But the way a number of them came into the building, smashing windows, knocking over police, jamming people indoors, that is not a crowd there for sightseeing. And when he says that word, I think it just kills credibility.
No, this is where you're missing it.
You're trying to make.
There was, to my knowledge, there was only that one section where they're smashing windows, and I truly believe those were the.
That has to be highlighted.
Yes, but no,
he should have said something. He should have said in his report there were instances noted of riotous behavior that the police. And then when he says, Bob, and I'm going to give you plenty of time, when he said. Well, you can see in the film here, the police are just leading them around. They're being nice to them. It's all set up. When you have a police force overwhelmed by a huge crowd, which there were there, I believe, and this is what kind of gets my goat, is that police force, I believe, were under instructions to try to keep things as calm as possible when they could, because if not, if they would have started arresting or dragging people around or got the QAnon guy in handcuffs, it would have ignited that crowd worse than what was going on. And I think it's wrong for Tucker not to put out that side of it and put out what was not surprising to me, a fully extreme conservative view on it.
Well, he did actually last night, if you watched, because he had a former police officer that worked there during this, and he was head of an important part of the police force. He was not a chief or anything, but what he said was they weren't told in advance what the threat was at all. The higher level people, see, this is where Nancy Pelosi comes in. And Mitch McConnell, by the way, specifically turned down the National Guard, which was offered to them multiple times. They wanted this incursion. And I'll tell you.
Okay. Well, let me
Wait,
stop you there. I want to
finish.
make sure the
Okay.
viewers understand what
You're
you're
not gonna
going
let me.
at. You're not saying it was ineptitude or they're just stupid people, that this was a setup by Nancy
Absolutely.
Pelosi and the Democrats to have this outrage shown on TV so Trump would never run again and
Well, of
possibly
course that's
be
what it-
indicted.
Or, of course, that's exactly what it was. I mean,
Okay, that's your belief. Okay.
well, you have to look at the facts, and the facts were they were offered this. They didn't even tell their people. This guy said we were not told how bad this was going to be, or that they were not given the intelligence information. So now when all these people show up, they go, "Holy crap!" And that's why they actually opened up heavy doors that no human could open up. They opened up doors, let them in, and they came in. And
I didn't see one police officer. I didn't see one police officer opening a door for somebody.
There was another reporting.
Did I miss that?
Not in that show.
I saw protesters kicking an exit door to allow people in. They
no. There was one guy
kicked the release bars on it, which he showed on his show,
Okay.
and he commented as well. People came in orderly. These guys were kicking the door open.
Okay, hold on. There's one guy they said
outrageous. Some of his comments were outrageous.
I can't say anything. I'll wait. So,
Go ahead.
well, I'm trying to talk, and you kind of don't let me. They blurred out one guy's face. They said, we're pretty sure he's a police officer, but we can't say it 100%, so we're not. He was holding the door open. There were other places I saw the police stood aside and opened the doors, and they came in that film. But there's other reports too, of big, massive doors. I've heard them repeatedly, and he couldn't cover everything in his hour, and they were opened by the police, and the people poured in. Now, they didn't run in and scream in. They just walked in. This was almost everybody was just walking in and walking around. Notice how the Democrats have no pictures. None that I can see. And you tell me if I'm wrong. I've not seen any of anybody rioting inside the building. Only outside. They wanted to get him in the building. That's why Ray Epps kept saying, you got to go in the building. You got to go in the building. Why do they have to go in the building? Why? Because he was a government operative, allegedly, trying to get them to come in. And so, it's just a massive thing. It's hard to discuss in this short period of time, but there's so much evidence that I've seen over years. I knew that this was fake probably 2 years ago, maybe 3. I don't know. But, 2 years ago, I guess, because it wasn't 3. And I knew this stuff because I could see it. And it was reporting at the time. There's been reporting since. I've been following it. Like I tell you, that Rebel News guys, they were in there identifying lots of things. There's the guy, which I saw the big scaffolding in some of the videos, but they don't even talk about that. There was a guy who I could hear. They were saying, he was yelling in a speaker, a megaphone, go into the building. And he had I told you about this in the prior week. And they had people, which I figured were government agents, down on the scaffolding below, keeping anybody from throwing him off. Why throwing him out and taking him down? Why wasn't he taken down right away? He was demanding people go in the building, was very critical to get people in the building. Why? Now, nobody talks at any time about go in and stop the voting, go in and stop the process. There's no evidence that any of these people were making any effort whatsoever to stop the process of certifying the election.
Well, by the time they were getting into the building, the process was over. They were evacuating the building. There was no process to disrupt.
Okay, so they weren't stopping. They alleged, the Democrats were alleging that they were doing this to stop it. Well, then how could they stop it? And then, by the way, this officer from last night said, I kept calling my boss, who was a black lady who now has been promoted, by the way, in charge of the police. And he said, I want to get the Senate. I have a clear shot to get the senators out of here. And she wouldn't respond. And he kept waiting. And he said, screw it. I'm going to take him out myself. And he did. And he took him out. But they wouldn't give him any information. Nancy Pelosi wanted, and Mitch McConnell, unfortunately, wanted this to happen. And I see that clearly with the evidence. I don't see any evidence that opposes that theory at all, because the evidence just isn't there that these people were coming in and causing any problem. But they needed to come in and say, oh, we had an insurrection. They entered there. And you even had AOC claiming she was in fear of her life. She was in a different building, wasn't even in the same building. The fake drama that went on here was absurd.
Well, I respect your opinion. I do. I know you do a lot of reading and a lot of looking at things, and I try as much as I can. My whole life is not tied up in this. We've got people in Washington supposedly who are supposed to do investigations who don't do a very good job. They're politically motivated investigations. They go nowhere, and it leaves people like us on the sidelines trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And it goes right to my point, and that is it creates greater divides in this country, which is a real shame. It's a real shame that it tears this country apart. And now we have an additional pouring on of the fire by the Tucker tapes. Now, do I believe in certain things that could be conspired? Do I think that the Democrats might want to do something like this and could try to do something like this? I think anything's possible. I just can't get there yet. I haven't had enough. I'm the doubting Thomas of the Bible. I want to see the holes. Okay. I'm that guy. I want to see the evidence.
All right.
And
So-
that's important to me because I can't get there. I think his report, his analysis, and his staff I think it started off with a bias because they work for what I call a conservative, I don't want to even call it news, conservative entertainment broadcaster. And I believe that I just can't get there, Bob.
Okay, well, let me give you a little more facts here. So he actually was doing this without really the excitement by his bosses who hate Trump. Okay, the
Well,
only
I can't.
No,
see,
he does. And
just have-
the next
yeah.
day, so the next day, which was yesterday, after this was shown, they said, please note that none of the Fox shows even covered this really critical thing that was just on their own network the night before, because we don't know why, but the feeling is because they don't want to get involved in it. So Tucker is really bucking the
Well, he's
people
facing some of his own there's allegations against him now in this lawsuit by Dominion. Okay. And I think Dominion's got a pretty good chance of winning this thing, and that he and Sean Hannity were pushing this election narrative. And I think their names are getting muddied up in this a little bit.
Well, I don't know. The Dominion thing is, I don't pay much attention. I mean, I do. I read about it, but it just Dominion's. We'll see what really happens with that. But
would it change your mind about Dominion if they win the lawsuit? If they win the civil lawsuit?
No, because lawsuit is
see
lower level of evidence. But we know about the Russian collusion hoax, which went on 24/7, 365 for about 4 years. And the Democrats did that. Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's no doubt the Democrats did that with FBI operatives in high level people. That was.
I know that. See, okay. I'm on board with that. I'm on.
But wait. But let me please.
They busted people for it. They busted those FBI guys for it.
But you can't say, "Oh, I know they did that, but they would never do this." The same kind of people.
No, I can't say that, Bob. I can say that. No. I can believe in one set of circumstances and deny the other side. Because I haven't really seen enough.
The people that would create out of a whole cloth false allegations of a sitting president, but oh gosh, they would never set the same guy up.
Bob, what you're telling me, though, is Nancy Pelosi orchestrated this with the top Democrats. Where the hell is the proof of that? Where's the proof? Do you have emails? Do you have telephone calls? Do you have anybody saying that she did this shit? Where is it? Where is it? You're making assumptions.
No, I'm not making assumptions.
And Bob, as much as I would like to see that happen to Nancy Pelosi, because I don't like her at all, I got to have something more than people just saying she was orchestrated.
She turned down the security that was needed they knew it was going to be a massive, massive thing. And they knew that the Capitol was a focus because it was the election and the certification election. And she viciously turned it down. She was repeatedly asked, and Mitch McConnell.
There's no proof. Bob.
There's lots of reporting of that. There's tremendous amount.
You have no proof. Nobody has any proof of it.
No,
Show me some proof.
I don't know which. I can't cite for you right now because I didn't memorize all of it. But if you look, you research that, you'll find it. The fact that she turned down the National Guard is not an argument. The Democrats.
No. I believe that to be true. I've heard that enough that she turned it down. Okay, but why did she turn it down? Has anybody interviewed her and asked her that?
I don't know. But she's not defending it. The Democrats aren't coming forward to explain it.
This is what I'm talking about. Let's say she turned it down. Did anybody investigate her and ask her why she turned it down?
Nobody seems to know why.
Nobody asked her that. Nobody asked her did anybody ask the officers who were calmly leading people through the Capitol what their orders were? I haven't heard any of those people were
That
interviewed.
guy last
Now,
night,
listen, you've done investigations. I've done investigations on stuff, and it comes down to asking people the right questions and getting answers. That's the part I'm having a problem with.
okay, well, the kind of investigations that you and I would do, we would get answers from. But you have slippery people here. The ones that did a complete Russian collusion hoax, that was very complex, this is an easy setup. This thing, to think that oh gosh, these people, now they were nasty there, but they would never be nasty to the same guy they were after before. No, they would never do that. No, of course they would.
I won't go that far either. I think between these political parties, they're open to just about anything. But I've got to see more things of evidence for me to say they did it.
Well, we'd love to have more, of course, and that's what's coming out. That's why I like what Tucker. Nobody did this before Tucker did. Well, I mean, that's not true because Rebel News did. But I mean, these tapes, no one's done it, and so everybody's
well, you know what?
bitching about.
Several Republicans, elected officials, reps or senators, I can't remember because I didn't even get their names. They came out against Tucker and thought it was biased. Thought it was not realistic.
Yes, the ones I heard about were the rhinos.
Well, you heard what McCarthy said himself right after January the 6th. He thought the whole thing was disgusting. He thought it was one of the worst things he's ever seen. That's a fact. He's on camera saying that. How would you respond to that? How do you respond to that?
A lot of information has come out since then to change, certainly should be changing his mind. A lot of people felt that. And now they're starting to say, wait a minute, this is not what they portrayed.
Well, why wouldn't he come out and say we have direct evidence that Nancy Pelosi orchestrated this? Why wouldn't he come out and say that? He's never said that.
He's not going to say that. No.
He's never said that.
He would come out and say she turned down the National Guard.
Lindsey Graham has never said that.
And then
Lindsey Graham, he's never said that.
And then the January 6th committee, the Republicans. Well, no, I'm trying to explain it. Please let me finish. The January 6th committee, they Republicans said we're going to want these people on committee. No, you can't have them. So they picked two Trump haters.
I understand.
But this is all part of the thing. You can't look at little pieces and go, I don't know. You have to look at the big picture. And see
Bob, I agree with you on that they put two Republicans on there that were anti-Trumpers anyways. I get that.
Because the entire January, but you have to look at the entire January 6th thing was a scam. And they're going to have the January 6th commission to.
I can't get there. That the entire thing is a scam. I can't get that.
It was she caused this to happen so she can then use it against him to have him either put in jail or not let him run again. That's what it's all about.
Well, I know there's a hell of a lot of people that hate Trump, including in his own party, much less the Democrats.
If they wanted the facts to come out, they would allow Jim Jordan and the others to be on there. And look, if you have facts, you don't have to censor. And that has been the problem with the Democrats all along. They didn't want to know about COVID, so we're going to censor people. Because why would you censor people? You could just argue facts and know that those people are wrong. Well, if you censor them, you don't have to address it. This is what's going on with the Democrat Party. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. And I've seen it for years, but it's really bad now.
Hey, listen, we're going to wrap this segment up, Bob. I think it was a great discussion. I'm sorry we're missing Patriot Phil. He missed a good one here tonight. And I think it was I think there's going to be more to come on this, and we'll be monitoring it, and we'll talk about it when there's enough stuff there to talk about. And we're going to start to wrap this thing up, but I want to get your comment. I want to get you a comment on something that's really burning me up here, and that is the amount of violence that is taking place on these airplanes now, and the lack of what would be the word, worker performance. Airplanes running into each other just on the ground, pulling back from the gate. And now we have these fights of these passengers. You saw the guy with the sawed-off spoon, right? That attacks the one stewardess. First, he goes after one of the male stewards who does nothing. You know what I mean? And then he attacks the other one. And then finally people get up and wrestle this clown to the ground. First of all, I want to say this. The United States government, given what we've seen, it should be a bipartisan legislative action. Anybody creates violence and is convicted of anything on there, they are on a ban, can never fly again on a U.S. Airlines. Can we agree on that tonight?
Well, yes, but you have to understand too that Biden and his characters have signed a large number, and it might even be majority of the air marshals down to be babysitters for illegal aliens on the border. It just happened, and they hate it, and the air marshals hate it. Well, now doesn't mean every flight has an air marshal. We know that, but that there's not enough people to, and you can't expect flight attendants either to fight to stop these people. Why they're doing it, I don't know.
Who the hell is going to stop the person then? Who's going to stop them if the flight attendants don't do it?
They're not law enforcement. They can't do that.
Well, who's going to do it? The pilots aren't coming out of the locked cabin. Who's going to do it?
Well, my point is they're stuck doing it, but they're not trained to do that. That's not their training.
Whose job is it then? Whose job is it?
That's the question.
Is it my job and your job? We're sitting there. This guy's on a rant and he's saying to you, I'm going to kill everybody in this plane. And I'm going to be thinking in my head, because I've already gone through this a little bit. If those stewardesses or whatever don't do shit, then I'm going to have to probably do something, because I know this. Once one passenger gets up and goes for the guy, you have to have a leader. Just like in the military, I served a lot of years in the military. One man has to lead, everybody else will follow. And if no one gets up to lead, which they didn't too early on in this case, this guy was trying to open doors and everything else, that if it's not the stewards and stewardess jobs to do this,
well, okay,
then it's left to the passengers. But here's what I want, a legislative action. If passengers assist the airline crew on a obviously angry person, they are not liable. They have no liability in the case if the guy hits his head or another passenger, because that's a safety issue. So I go back to you. Whose job is it? Passengers or the crew?
Okay.
And then we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead.
Let me be clear. They may be, in the terms of their employment, responsible, but they are not law enforcement. They don't have the capability to do it.
I understand they're not law enforcement.
So
I understand that.
And they don't have security on the planes. Other than that, they don't. Other than the air marshals, so they don't.
Bob? Who does it?
What's that again?
Who does it if it's not their job? The captain's got to come back.
That's a question for the government. I'm telling you that they can put it in their job description if it's in their job description. But you can't expect someone to fight somebody with a sharpened spoon and all that. They end up doing it, but it's unfair to put it on them.
Well, you're probably, you know what, and I'm not going to disagree with you, because I talked to a CVS employee, the CVS pharmacy. Yeah. I was talking to him, checking out on something, and I said, maybe I'm just going to go back and take a bunch of stuff, throw it in my bag, and walk the hell out of here. What are you going to do? And the girl told me, I'm not going to do anything, because we're told not to do anything. And it's not in her contract, and they tell her not to do anything. You could be right that the stewards and stewardesses it's not in their contracts to do anything.
Well,
but, that needs to be made clear, because if it's not their job, do you think I'm going to stay seatbelted in that freaking seat? Would you sit there? Would you sit there, Bob, and not do anything?
No, I would do something. But what I'm saying is it may very well be in their description, but it's unrealistic. That's what I'm trying to say.
But who else would do it then?
Well, if you don't give them training and you say they have to do it, what do you got? A mess.
Then you know what we have to do? I like to get to solutions, because the government and these investigations don't get to too many conclusions. Here's my conclusion. If it's not their job, they really don't want to do it, their union doesn't want them to do it, then the airlines are going to have to hire and contract to security personnel to be on these airplanes, and going to charge us more per ticket.
Do flight attendants even have access to stun guns? Probably not.
No,
I don't know.
They do not. So they don't have any weapons training. They don't carry any weapons.
Yeah, so they're stuck.
They have fire extinguishers. They could use a fire extinguisher on the guy. They don't have. They're not going to deploy tear gas in there.
No, but you can see it's very unfair to them.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. But the problem is, which we're not going to get to the solution tonight, is who the hell's job is it? You know what it does? It then falls to the passengers, who have no idea what their liabilities are.
No, right? I'm with you on the liability. I hate the liability issue. Yeah.
That's bullshit. Okay. Hey, listen. Hey, great discussion tonight. Hey, very good discussion. I hope any viewers out there that we may have and that we accumulate along the way, because this will go out on a recorded basis as well. We did it live. We come on here. Sometimes I'm on here by myself. Sometimes I'm in here with some of my panel members. We did invite a couple of guests. They were both on the more, I would say, the left side of the aisle. They never answered. Very unprofessional on their part. And who knows, maybe they're not even professionals. But I invited a couple people on here to come on, debate some of these issues, and they didn't even respond. So given that, we move on to other guests in the future, and we'll get some. But I want our audience to know we're going after one thing, and it's running across here now. Let's find the truth together. It's out there. We're trying to unite America and not divide it. Final comment, Bob.
No, thanks for a good show. That's all.
Okay, very good. Bob, always great pleasure having you on here, and hopefully we will see you again. Okay, let's go out there, try to find the truth. And Bob, you take care of yourself. We'll see you again in the future.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Folks, that's it for our show here tonight. I want to thank you guys for viewing in. These are hot topics, and there's so many topics out there. We just don't have time to cover everything. But we're here really for you. We're not getting paid for this. We're not asking you for any money. We're not asking you for paid subscriptions. We'd love for you if you'd hit subscribe. If you like what you hear, this is raw, unfiltered, and it's no BS. Okay, we're going to tell you how we feel about these issues, and we know there's a lot of different feelings out there. You can always come in here, drop your comments. We'll flip them up there, and we'll debate those as well. Thanks for joining us here on Defense of America. This is William B. Strong, wishing everybody a happy day, happy evening, and a safe tomorrow. Bye-bye.